Hello, my name is Jean-Carl Soler, and on behalf of the Battlefront Living History Group, I'm going to present to you a firearm with a very important history. So this is a quite recognizable submachine gun. It's the MP40. The MP40 was originally introduced as the MP38. This was designed by Volmer within Irma Group, based on a previous design, an MP36 or the EMP, or Irma Maschinenpistole, developed by Geipel. And the MP38 was developed on the basis of the German army, the Wehrmacht's request for a new submachine gun. And it's interesting, the Allied terminology is submachine gun, and the German terminology is Maschinenpistole or machine pistol. Mainly because this fires a 9mm 9x19 round in full automatic. So it's a pistol round, and so they call it a machine pistol, while the Allies call it a submachine gun. The Allies also refer to this as the Schmeisser, and Hugo Schmeisser was the gentleman who designed the MP18 and this one of the first widely used submachine guns. The first was an Italian, but the MP18 was more widely used. It was one of the first submachine guns designed by Schmeisser, and the Allies referred to this as the Schmeisser, but it certainly has nothing to do with Hugo Schmeisser. So the MP38 was the earlier design. This is an MP40, which was an improvement. The MP38 contained maybe more machined parts. Maybe they wanted a better safety mechanism. So the MP40 was an improvement on the MP38, just as the MP38 evolved from other submachine guns. So as regards the firearm, presents as short, like a carbine. However, it fires a pistol round, not a rifle round. It has a folding stock, which is an interesting feature. I will demonstrate that later. The interesting thing is that many parts of the MP40 were not machined out of a piece of steel, which was more useful, more wasteful of resources and of manpower. But these were parts of the MP40 were actually stamped, which makes it easier to manufacture and less wasteful of materials. You also had parts of it which were made of bakelite, a type of plastic, so a synthetic material. So it was designed to be easier to manufacture. As you can see, it fires from an open bolt, and the magazine would be obviously inserted from below. As the trigger is pulled, the bolt would rush forwards, carrying with it the round from the lip of the magazine, and the round would fire, and then the bolt would recoil backwards. The spring, which obviously would allow then the bolt to return, was carried in a spring guide, which in itself acted as a pneumatic buffer. So as it was coming back, it would also buffer part of the recoil in itself. So that was part of the design. When it was obviously it fired in full automatic only. This version, the MP40, had a safety device where you would basically hook the bolt handle into a notch on the upper part of the receiver. This would keep the weapon safe, so if you pulled the trigger, it would not operate, it would not fire. This was a shortcoming of the MP38, and in some cases the sling had a special loop to hold on to the bolt handle to stop it from firing as a safety mechanism. But this was one of the improvements required by the army and was incorporated in the MP40. So in firing, one held it either by the bakelite handguard, and also to demonstrate, I'm going to open up the folding stock. This is an important feature, so it could be fired as a very short firearm, even in restricted areas, conditions, like for example inside the half track or inside inside another vehicle. The stock could be folded to make it even more compact. In firing, one of the mistakes was actually, rather than using the standard system, was to hold it by the magazine or by the insertion point of the magazine into the firearm. This would cause reliability issues because the magazine was not firmly held and would move, and this could actually cause misfires. Another problem of reliability of the MP40 was that the magazine itself was a double stack single feed. Whereas, for example, the Thompson would have a wider lips for the feeding. So the fact that you had two rounds coming up and had to come or sort of be pushed up, the only one would be presented as a single feed, created some problems with reliability also, especially when the magazines were dirty or the firearm was dirty. Okay, so talking also about some accessories of this of this firearm. This is the original sling, which, as you can see, is quite different, for example, for the sling for a K98, as you understand, because it's a different firearm. So this is the sling. These are the magazines, which are one of these is made by Heinel and the other one by Steyr. And they are marked even with the year of manufacture. So as I said, it's a double stack, single feed, 32 round magazine. What I have here are the loading tools. So these would actually help you load by being mounted on top of the magazine, and as you put the rounds in, you push down the rounds into the you can push down the round which has been loaded to facilitate the loading of the next round by pushing down either the lip of the magazine feeder or as the round itself, to make insertion of the rounds easier, especially when it comes to the end and you're loading the last few rounds and the spring is under maximum compression. I also have here an original pouch for the magazines of the MP40. So the pouch would contain typically 3 magazines inside the 3 pouches of the combined pouch, and you would usually have 2 of these, so usually with 6 spare magazines to be carried in 2 of these pouches. These pouches are also very hard to find and usually quite expensive. They were issued mainly to non-commissioned officers, to the junior officers, possibly maybe a platoon leader or the leader of a mortar squad, or possibly the leader of a machine gun platoon. However, later on in the war, when the Germans on the Eastern Front came across Russians armed with the PPSH, very effective submachine gun, they tended to have assault squads equipped almost fully or fully with MP40s. And then eventually later on in the war, obviously the first assault rifle, the MP44, came to take its place as a rapid fire weapon, as a weapon which can provide suppressive fire. One of the features I haven't mentioned that I would like to mention now is you also have, with many of these MP40s and also the MP38s, under the barrel you have this guard here. In this case it's made of Bakelite, and you have this protrusion here and this Bakelite support. This was used to position the firearm on the edge of a half-track or other vehicle to steady it on firing. And as I said, in that case you would actually fold the stock to make the firearm more compact. And as you can see, the stock folds quite neatly in. To conclude, I think I will just say that this is one of the more iconic firearms of the Second World War. Very recognizable by its shape, maybe not by its name. This MP40 was manufactured by Erma, so the markings are AYF for Erma, and the year is 1942, and all of the parts of this firearm are matching with the same serial number. So this is I think a nice addition to any collection, and I would recommend people to actually consider this if they are interested in collecting, because it is certainly an iconic firearm. So with that, I think I would thank you for your attention.